Hello everybody, welcome to Knock Off Rugby. The Springbok squad was announced this morning, so let's get into it. This is a biggie. This is New Zealand. Now, for every South African out there, they know that New Zealand is the pinnacle for South Africa. We're going there with a mission. History is to be made on both sides. Well, for New Zealand's history to be kept. For South Africa, it's history to be broken. They have not lost at Eden Park since '94. 50 test matches. There's a lot on the line for this. I think Sir John Kirwan said that the last game that they lost at Eden Park, he was part of the team. Now that that shows you how long this record has been standing. So let's get into it. The Springbok squad is fairly unchanged. However, there are a few surprises. I thought there were more injuries than, well, we still have a lot of injuries, but certain key injuries that I thought might not make the New Zealand tour. I'm sure some of them might still not make the Eden Park test, but it looks like that we're going to have a number of players returning for the Wellington test. So depending on how you look at it, it's both negative and positive. I think we will certainly be, in terms of squad depth or squad strength. Let me rephrase that. In terms of match day strength, I think Wellington possibly will be stronger than Eden Park. Let's get into it. I'm going to put up the team sheet next to me, and I'm going to go name by name as per the South African announcement. I was going to do position by position, but I suppose let's just keep it original and go with how they were announced. We've got Loet de Jager. Now, Loet de Jager is, he's just a stalwart. He's just an inclusion. Just based on what we've seen, he hadn't been in the Springbok jersey for a number of years, or actually probably just over a year since the World Cup, and that was due to various injuries that he had. So it's almost, I wouldn't say acceptable, but it's kind of natural that he's going to have to find his feet. I thought he wasn't at his best in the past couple of tests that he's got, but he's getting there, and I think we will still see the best of him, and he's a natural inclusion. We've got Pieter-Steph to Toit. First name on the team sheet in any country. He'll walk into any tier 1 nation first 15 quite easily. I just hope that this time that we don't use him so much in the wider channels. He's just got that grunt ability as well. Perhaps maybe if he's going to play, he normally plays the 80s. Normally our player that plays the 80. Perhaps the last 20 minutes start using him in the wider channels, create mismatches. But I hope we really use him where he's just fundamentally incredible, and that's through the guts. He's also a jumper in the line-out, so he's just an auto-include, really. Then we have Thomas du Toit, excellent around the park. He was used as our battering ram along with Ox in the last game against Australia. That's where we got our go forward through the guts. Scrummaging, I'm still unsure. We didn't get any scrum dominance. We know what Ox can do on the one side of the scrum. Thomas is still yet to be seen in terms of his scrumming ability. But I think he can play both sides of the scrum, so his inclusion is understandable as well. He just covers both positions. He just gets around the park and he seems to score a lot more tries than a prob should. So, yeah, great inclusion. Then we've got Jean-Luc du Preez. He was out with gastro just before the second test against Australia, and that was a big disappointment for me because I would have loved to have seen him play. I think he has shown in the past that he's got that brunt. He used to get over the ball quite often as well, and he's been playing very well. He's been a stalwart for Sale Sharks in the Premiership. So I would love to have him get an extended run, especially with regards to how many injuries we have in the loose forwards. He can play 7. Seems like we're going to be using him at 8, which is understandable considering our 8 stocks are not very great. I think Wiese is out till the Wellington test. I think his ban extends past the Eden Park test. So I have a feeling we're going to see Jean-Luc in that first 15 for the Eden Park. Then we've got Vincent Koch. Now, this one to me is a bit contestable because he's been great for us, but he wasn't particularly good for the Sharks this season. I don't think he's been that great when he's come on for the Springboks this season either. I think age has caught up to him a little bit. His scrumming ability to me, has sort of gone downhill as well. not as dominant as he used to be. But I suppose in terms of our props, we don't really, our depth is questionable to say the very least. So perhaps that's why he's been included. And let's see how he goes. I'm not sure he's going to even get game time, to be honest. Maybe on the bench in one of the games, but not a bad inclusion. Next, we have our captain, Siya Kolisi. I actually thought he was going to be out for the New Zealand tour. I have a feeling that he's touch and go for the first test anyway. But if he can be included in both 15s, that is a huge boost for us. I think he is exactly, him and Pieter-Steph is exactly what we were lacking in the second test against Australia. I would go as far as to say as the score would have been very different with them on the field. They are our grunt. We don't have to rely too much on our 1 and 3 to get us go forward. These guys play in the channels and they play in the guts. And also their breakdown work is just second to none. So I believe Kolisi has been one of the best players we've had in the last year and a half. People will say perhaps the last 6 years, but I think the gap between him and second in his position now is far greater than it was 6 years ago. So I'm a big fan. I hope he's recovered well. I hope we don't push him too hard. But yes, excellent inclusion. Then we have Wilco Louw. Now, Wilco Louw is a scrumming machine. I also think that he is exactly what we need to just set up that dominance against New Zealand in the scrum, because they have, I believe, the second best scrum in world rugby. And we're going to see if that is still the case, whether it's the first best scrum in world rugby when they come up against us. I have a feeling that they're going to be far more competitive in that set piece than we think. So Wilco, to me, how do you use him? He's pretty slow on the park and relatively a non-subject outside of scrummaging. So do you bring him on in the last 20 to look for those penalties? Exactly what Ox used to do for us. It remains to be seen. I'm very interested to see how we use him. Or do you wear them down in the scrums? Hopefully you get more in the beginning of the game to wear the guys down, get some dominance, get some penalties in territory early. Depends on the way you look at it, I think. I think I'd prefer him off the bench, actually. Let Ox and Thomas start and bring on Wilco with Jan Hendrik or Bowen Fenter. Then we've got Malcolm Marx and Bongion Mbonambi. Malcolm Marx auto-include, he will start. Bongion Mbonambi, I think there's a missed opportunity here. He's not been in the greatest of form for the Springboks and the Sharks, actually. I think it's difficult to put age, but I think like Vincent Koch, Bongion Mbonambi has just lost that spark. I also think that this was an opportunity for us to just give guys a chance. We've got Akker van Merwe in the wings that I think he's deserved a Springbok spot for a long, long time. He's not too old, not too young either, and he's been around the block. I think he could have easily slotted into this position. Then we have Franco Mostert and Oxenche. Oxenche auto-include best scrummager in the world, in my opinion. There's not much more to say. Franco Mostert, I like his inclusion, but I question this. Why are we including a lock who's covering flank and not a flanker who can cover lock? Our loose forward stocks are pretty thinner than the lock stocks. So I think this was an opportunity to include someone like Vincent Tutuka. He can jump in the lineouts. He can play 4. He can play any position in the back row. It just would have been someone who I would have given a bit of game time during this tour. You don't want to throw a whole bunch of newbies in. I understand that. But I think there's another missed opportunity when it comes to the likes of Vincent Tutuka. I'm not saying I would have replaced Mostert. As I go on, I think we could have replaced 1 or 2 other players. But I just think that it's a bit silly to pick a lock covering flank than it was to pick a flank covering lock. Then we have Ruan Nukia, Kwagga Smith, and Archie Snyman. I've gone through all 3 of these because I think, depending on their role, they also auto-includes. Archie, I think, just lives off the bench. I'm not sure he should start for us. And Kwagga, the same. Kwagga, I don't think, has the same sort of impact that he does early in the game than he does late in the game. He's not a very big guy, so when you got fresh forwards that are able to tackle him, generally he doesn't go that far forward. Yes, he wrestles well and he gets over the ball, but I think that's far more competitive later on in the game against tired forwards. He just seems like this energetic Jack Russell that just runs and gets over everything. So yes, I like his include, but I would put him. I would not start him, and I'd put him on the bench. Roux Nokia, I like a lot. I think he's slowly becoming our new line-out general. And yes, he's been in fine form. Another lock that can also play 7. We've seen him do it at the Bulls. So yes, auto include. I'm happy with those 3, depending on what roles they go on the field for. Manus van der Merwe and Marco van Staden, as well as Bowen Fenter. Manus van der Merwe and Bowen Fenter, both newbies. I think it's good that Rassie is giving them a shot in New Zealand. I think it's going to be a very different environment for them and something that they're going to learn loads from. Marco van Staden, I don't believe, has been playing that well. I think he gives away a lot of penalties. I know his battle stats are something that Rassie really likes, but he just sometimes does a few silly things that can cost us in big games. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. I know one would say, who do you replace him with? Again, Vince Suka, but I think I would rather maybe see out a lock than I would Marco van Staden. Then we have Jan-Henrik Wessels and Jasper Wiese. Let's talk about Jasper first. It is, I mean, he was always going to be included in the squad. I think he's only available for the Wellington test though, so he's not going to be playing. Even though he's in the squad here, don't expect him to see him in the Eden Park test squad, test team. His ban, I think, extends past that. He was always going to be included in the squad, though, because he needs to run. I'm sure he's going to get a start in Wellington, and he'll need to just get used to the environment and get acclimatized to New Zealand. So I can understand his inclusion, but he will not be available for the Eden Park test. Jan-Henrik Wessels, great player. He's done it before. He covers multiple positions and just a great include. I'm very happy with that. So that's the forwards done. Then we've got Damian Allende, Andre Etzebeth, and Apelele Fassi. Now, Apelele Fassi, one could argue that his games against Australia weren't too great, but I believe in the second test he was really good under the high ball, and I think that this is going to be a big plot in the first game against New Zealand. They weren't too confident under the high ball against Argentina in both tests, so I think Fassi getting up high is going to be very important. He's got the speed. I expect him to start in the first test at Eden Park. Andre Etzebeth has just been in amazing form. He can play flank now, and he can play in the centres. I actually think that he's been outshining Damian de Allende quite a bit. However, his downfall, or if you would call it that, is that he can also play flank. I believe he's going to be used on the bench for that particular strategy, which means that he, unfortunately, probably won't start at centre. Damian de Allende is just a solid. He's solid on defense, solid on attack. He's got one of the best handling abilities in the Springbok team. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer, especially with his combination with Jesse Creel, who I'll come to next. We've then got Sasha FM and Ethan Hooker, the 2 rookies. Ethan Hooker, I've been disappointed that Rassie has not given him a chance. Even in those first Italy tests and the Georgia test, I thought this guy, after the URC that he's had, just deserved it. He can play multiple positions. Why are we not putting minutes into this boy? You know, it will always, it's astounded me, actually. Sasha FM, this guy's roof, his ceiling is beyond all. I think he's got one of the highest ceilings in world rugby. Hasn't been playing well of late. I'm not sure if that's because he's trying to live up to the hype. I really hope that they just ease him in, and he eases himself in. Don't put so much pressure on him. He mustn't put so much pressure on himself to create something out of nothing. Play structures. If you see something, use your natural ability. I like both those inclusions, and I think these are 2 players that we need to develop, and I hope they get minutes in New Zealand. We've got Jesse Creel and Cheslin Kolbe. Auto includes Jesse Creel as one of our captains. Great on defense. Cheslin Kolbe can almost win you the game in terms of his contestables. He just gets up for a little guy. He must have one of the highest jumps in world rugby. His speed and his positioning is unmatched. And he will probably start both tests. Then we've got Willie Roux and Moni Lebok. Willie Roux, I can understand, probably there to steady the ship and give a bit of experience to the team and make sure maybe with Pollard playing, they're going to use him as that second receiver and get the ball out wide. So I might be wrong in terms of the fussy start. It could be Willie Roux for that reason, depending on who they go with at 10. Manie Lebok is contentious. I'm not sure we're going to be playing that end-to-end rugby. I think we're going to play the pressure game. His contestable kicking is really good. He puts that cross kick up and he just, the ball disappears into the sky. He kicks it so hard. So maybe there is characteristics of his game that could fit in, but Manie Lebok is not known to handle the pressure game. Now, maybe he starts and then Handre comes off the bench, and depending on if we go 5-3 or 6-2, you can have Willie on the bench as well to come on with Handre. So yeah, I suppose it depends on the way you look at it, but I'm not convinced. One could argue, though, that is there anyone else at this point in time? Probably not. He'll probably be, I hope, he's probably going to be the third choice here. I'm not sure he'll get a start. Then you've got Makazole, Mapimpi, and Canan Moodie. Now, Canan Moodie, he got up for a few contestables in the second test, but ended up having a bad game, in my opinion. He was also taken off quite early, so I think the coaching staff had a relatively similar opinion. The first game that he started against them was also not great. Oh, no, he didn't start. He came off the bench, pardon me. I don't think he played well. His defensive reads and his positioning in back play seems to be off. He seems to be misplaced there. I'm wondering if centre is not more suited to his style. However, taking off someone like Jesse Creel is in the starting lineup is going to be tricky. He's the heart and soul of our defensive system. So, although to be honest, he hasn't been reading that the best either. We've leaked a lot of tries this year. Then you've got Handre Pollard and Kobus Reinach. Now, Handre Pollard, I'm not arguing anything. There's not much I even need to say about the Iceman. He's going to win us tests now, and he's going to win us tests in a couple of years. The backline, I will admit, does look a little bit flat-footed behind him, but perhaps we need to interject someone like Willie or start teaching Fussy and Willemse those particular skills that Willie has. I know they're very particular and probably player-specific, so can you teach that to them? They need to try, because I think Handre Pollard needs to be on the field, especially in the last 20. So if you bring him on as a replacement, maybe so. Kobus Reinach, this is contentious for me. I think I'd rather have Faf or Jaden Hendrickse. Jaden's far younger. His contestable kicks are probably one of the best in the world. I know Grant's kicking has been on point, but I think Jaden was the one who first started this type of game for us. Not in terms of he came up with the game plan, but he enabled it. His kicking is on point, even for the Sharks. The amount of ball the Sharks win back with Jaden Hendrickse's contestables is amazing. So I'm not sure. We've got enough experience to not need Kobus Reinach. I've always been a fan of his. I supported him when he was still playing for the Sharks. But I think it's now time to move on to someone else. And saying that, Morne van der Berg and Grant Williams epitomize what Tony Brown, I think, is trying to do. They are the speed of their ruck ball and the speed of their passes and just their speed. If they see a gap is insane. It's exactly what we want. So yes, I think perhaps it would have been a better choice to put in Jaden Hendrickse. He doesn't have that speed of ball, but he can play that second game that we have in our back pocket, and perhaps him on the bench is something to think about. Then we got Damian Willemse. Now, Damian Willemse needs, in my opinion, more games with the Stormers. I think I rate him as one of the best fullbacks who can also cover fly half and centre in the world. However, I think the lack of minutes has really been hurting him. He's not played well when he's come on for the Boks. And I'm not sure, one could argue, I give him minutes in the Springbok jersey, but is that where you want to give him initial minutes against the All Blacks? Perhaps he needed to play one or two games of Currie Cup. I understand that that's a very low-level competition at the moment, but I think it would have helped his game. So that is the Springbok squad for New Zealand. It is, I think it's almost as strong as we can put out, Notable omissions for me is probably Vincent Tutuka. I think he could definitely have covered a few positions here for us. You've got Roux, but I think with Jasper Wiese coming back and Jean-Luc there now, Roux is back down the pecking order. Akker, I think, could have had a spot here. I think there is a player that he could have, in my opinion, replaced. And then you've got guys like Kieran Horn, who I also think could have had a space here. So there are a few omissions that perhaps I would have included, and a few guys that are included that I perhaps would have left in South Africa. But it is what it is. We'll all have our own opinions, and we all think that we are Rassie, or we can think like him. What an easy job it is to be a selector and the Springbok coach. So tell me what you guys think in the comments. Is this the squad to break the 50-match winning streak that the All Blacks have at Eden Park? Are they ready for us? Are the chinks in their armour what we are going to target? I think we're going to target the high ball. And, I'm not sure that New Zealand can actually handle that. I definitely have a few opinions of who they're going to bring in, like the likes of Caleb Clark, who is better under the high ball. But yeah, I don't think they're ready. I do think that we have a very strong chance in New Zealand. I'm not sure, guys, it's going to be Eden Park, but I definitely think that we can take Wellington. Anyway, you guys let me know if there's anybody that you would have brought in, that is anybody that you would take out, and what are your opinions on the squad? I'll reply to every comment you leave. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate everyone who's watching the videos and helping me grow this channel. I really want to bring more content to you, and yeah, let's see what happens going forward. Thanks, guys. Cheers.